Great, so just as I saw in the last video, we need to go ahead and add the from query attribute to this parameter here. So let's do that. Attribute from query. So he will grab the search parameter information from the query string. Now let's set a breakpoint and test this. So we want to check if the parameters here are getting received and converted and everything is working fine. So let me set a breakpoint to line 32 and completely start the application. In debugging mode for sure. So now go to the URL box here and write down your ASP.NET Swagger-like port, right? But then don't go to Swagger, simply call /flight. So this is our flight endpoint. Add a question mark now to add some parameters, and let's set destination to be Paris. Great, so let's hit enter. You can see the breakpoint is now getting activated. So let's just move to the right. And you get the add params here. So let me collapse that. Let me unfold it. And you can see destination is equals to null. And that should be because of like the spelling mistake of destinations. Instead of calling it destinations, I should call it destination, right? So let's save it like this again. Let me hit start. Right, so this is why we are debugging, right? So perfect example of where you should always throw in some breakpoints every now and then and test your flow and then check why do I not get the result I'm expecting, right? And then it could be a simple typo, so that definitely helps. Now let me bring over everything here again. So /flight, right? So again /flight question mark destination equals to Paris. So now it should get activated again. It's exactly the same. Hold the cursor above it and you can see when I show it here, we got destination set to Paris now. That's fine. You can for sure also see this below here. Great. Okay, so now we have verified that once we write something down as a query string right in the URL box, so by attaching some parameters, we turn that into a query string, we can actually get it right here into our controller. So that's great, but for sure, we don't want to go ahead and write that down by hand in the search URL box, right? Or in the URL box at the top. We instead want to go ahead and use our filter form that we have created. So now let's switch over again to our Angular project and implement that. So now while this is loading, go ahead and start the application because we can for sure only update the client API when we have, well, our project running. You can also start that with controller 5, so you don't have to go into debugging mode. However, let me go to the Solution Explorer, right click Client, App, Open in Terminal. And now we for sure again run our default command, which is npx ng open api -gen. There we go. So now it got generated and updated. That's great. You can see that flight service.ts got patched. So I can now shut down the application. Now we should pass the search parameters to the service. So go ahead to search flights component.ts, client app search flights component.ts, right? We already had that open, but I just wanted to show you where to find it again. So now scroll down to our search function or method that we got right here. This flight service search flight uses this dot search form dot value, right? So we didn't implement that so far, but we can do it for sure right now. Let me just get rid of the object braces here. So search flight this search form value. So if we're gonna call this in our controller in ASP in the end, right? This is what will happen, right? So we send in the search form values, which is exactly this one, and that one is our form on the front end side. So now we submit this to our backend solution. We can now go ahead again to the flight controller and show some information here. So for example, let's see, we got that logger here, right? That allows us to, well, actually log information for us. Guess that makes sense. So let's call it logger.log information. We do it like this. Let's go search in for a flight for, and then we're gonna add destination for destination. Yeah, we can do it like this, log information destination, and we simply go ahead and use our app params here dot destination for sure. Great. So now let's start the application in debugging mode because we want to take a look at the output window right here. Now let's search for destination. So let me write down Paris here and let's simply hit search. Now let's switch over to our project, and in the output window you can see search for a flight for null. So why do we receive null here, right? So because we entered Paris and it should actually be attached, but it seems like the flight parameter destination is null, right? So this is not even an empty string, it's completely null. And we need to change something in order to fix this. Our API right now expects Pascal case parameter names, but the client, so Angular, sends camel case parameter names, right? So it's only about that. So we are expecting to be Pascal case, but Angular sends camel case parameters. So let's go ahead and fix this. Open up program.cs. I mean, in the end, you have to deal with all of these, well, stuff which is going to happen to you when you develop a program, right? And we can fix this by simply adding a single line of code. So here where we say add server, right above this, we're gonna go ahead and say c.describe all parameters in camel case. So you can see that ASP.NET has even created a complete method for it, which you will just have to call, well, not ASP, but in the end Swagger, right? So swashbuckle. There we go. So c.describe all parameters in camel case. Awesome. Let's start the application again, because we now need to switch over again and update our client API. Great, so with the application running, go ahead and for sure open up again client app folder, open in terminal. Let me just write down the comment, you're already very used to it, right? So it's npx ng open API -gen again. So this will update everything and well, we'll write a complete match of how the parameters should now be called. So let's go ahead, since we updated it, it's great, but let's restart the application and test the whole flow again, right? Okay, now let's write down again Paris, and let's see, let's hit search, let's switch to our project. You can still see that we receive everything here, right? And inside of the project, when we go to the output window, we can see searching for flight for Paris. So now we can really grab the information. Okay, let me shut down the application and hit Ctrl F5 because I want to have it started in the background because it takes this just short time amount, right? Let me go to the flight controller, and here you can see that we are logging the information about the destination, right? So we now know that we got the destination because that was the log we have just seen. However, we are not really using it to filter, right? Because we are still selecting all the flights that we have. So next up, we want to start filtering by from place, destination, time, and number of seats. So everything that we can really enter, we want to filter through.